I'm back with all our theories. I think we have some really good ones. So now let's get into all the theories. Okay, the first theory revolves around the book. Okay, the literal translation for that cult that they keep talking about is East Study. The first theory is that Chol-jong is actually a part of this East Study group because he knows the password along with his friend Hong. If we remember back to a previous episode, Hong was the one that read the password that the blind woman wrote that said the queen was in danger. So that means they both know, all three of them should know about the East Study group, or at least they know about this type of passwords. The politicians also alluded that Chol-jong was related to the cult and threatened him when he was trying to keep them from killing the little maid girl. And it looks like this is actually true. And if it is true, that is a big reason to impeach the king. So remember, when the maid girl was about to die, the king was like, no, we can't kill this little girl. But he backed way off when the politicians mentioned that cult. So that cult might have some meat to it after all. Another theory related to this is that the king is using this as a way to trap the Kim family once again. So what if this East Study password is Chol-jong's trap to catch the Kim family and Byung-in because he knows that the queen's room was already searched once by the Kim family. So he could think that the Kim family is going to search it again. In episode 16, Byung-in said their plan had no weak points. But what if this password is planted by Chol-jong inside that kid's book for Byung-in to find? Byung-in will show this password as evidence and try to impeach the king. That could lead to Byung-in getting indicted for inciting a coup with this false evidence. So it could be a trap by the king. I mean, the king blew himself up at his own festival, so perhaps he could go to these measures as well. But the king also looks like he's trying to figure out who is the person who really knows about this childhood book. And he doesn't know if it's Hwa Jin, he doesn't know if it's So Young. So in episode 16, it looks like he laid a little trap to find, not really a trap, but he just tried to use this book to find out who was the real owner of the book. In episode 16, he had the book on his desk when So Young came in, and the queen noticed the book and reacted to it in a way that made the king think that she's the real owner of the book, but she denied it. So he leaves the book on his desk, and we think he left it there to see how Hwa Jin will react to it. He left it right at the top of all his books. Now when Hwa Jin comes in, she sees the book and says that she scribbled in it as a kid and wrote little notes in the book. And we see the notes that are in the book. But this is how Chol-jong knew she was lying about the book, because in episode 7, the notes were not in the book. This could be a production accident, or it could be part of Chol-jong's plan to trap the Kim family, like we mentioned previously. In episode 7, they showed how the letters can come together in the passcode, which could be the East Study group's way of encrypting messages in plain sight. In that scene, the notes were also not written yet. So Hwa Jin couldn't have written those notes when she was a kid because they weren't there. Another theory is that Chol-jong could have created an entirely new book because the Biup symbol that's in the current book was not in the old one. Or this could just be something that was written right now to be a passcode for someone else. But one theory is that the original book could just be kept safe and sound somewhere because he already suspected Hwa Jin was not the owner of the book. That's one theory. When Hwa Jin left, The king also asked Yang Pyong if he should ignore the truth that no one wants him to find out. And that is who the real owner of this book is. And we feel like this book is going to be a big story moment in the last 4 episodes of this show, because it appears to be the key to this East Study group thing that this story is starting to evolve around now. One other thing to notice is later on that night when So Young went into the office, that book wasn't there anymore because it had already served his purpose. He had already found out who the real owner of the book was, so he could put it away. And then, of course, much later, he gave it to her as a gift for the real owner of the book. And then that leads to another hypothesis, though. Since Chol-jong gave the book back to the queen, if Byung-in is using this book as a way to trap the king, the queen could also get a lot of blame for this because she is the owner of the book and it was found in her quarters. So that could be why at the end of the video preview, why Chol-jong said he would take all the blame. Because if not, his queen's in danger, his unborn child is in danger. So it looks like that's what he might be about to address. Of course, these are all our guesses. And one fun guess that we think might happen either in episode 17 or 18 or 19 or 20, it could be a cliffhanger. So don't listen to this. It could be a big spoiler. So fast forward, we'll put a spoiler warning on if anyone doesn't want to listen to this one. Okay, you've had a chance to pause by now, hopefully. So we think that when So Young mentioned the bulletproof vest, she just mentioned it casually, except it was something that the 3 fellas really liked. Yang Pyong also really liked it. They talked about how you could wear it under your clothing. We think there might be a scene where the king gets shot, perhaps the queen gets shot, and we all think they're going to die. But then that's when the bulletproof vest gets revealed and they survive. But that could be a big spoiler if that's like a cliffhanger that happens. So that's why we have the spoiler warning on. Of course, it might not happen. These are just our guesses. Okay, the next theory involves So Young's mother. Perhaps So Young's mother was a part of this East Study group, because we get a little hint about that when So Young's father was talking to her. The father mentioned that So Young's mother wanted her to live in a new world where she could experience everything that she could not experience in the current Joseon, which is kind of like the teachings of the East Study group. That's what they believe. So in this kid's book, she could have all the writings from her mother in there. That could be another reason why she loved this book so much. I'm not sure, but So Young might have told the king that it was her mother's book when they were in the well. We would have to go back and double check that, but if anyone knows about that, let us know about it. And lastly, baby theories. We think this show might be going into an alternate dimension universe theory because the past has already been messed up because we have a brand new So Young. In the history books, So Young was very quiet. She died early. In this new So Young is not quiet at all. She's a little hot firecracker. So the history books have already been rewritten. It's already changed. Okay, so that means a lot of other things can change too, which we think are being alluded to kind of. One, the baby. So the baby could be a new big king of Korea. All our guesses. For instance, when So Young jumped from the wall and landed like a superhero in that one scene, the king says she was the biggest, strongest card in the deck. Basically, she's the ace of spades, the joker, the wild card. That's what he said when she landed. Like the royal flush, which could allude to her carrying a very strong baby inside her. So she's like the wild card that's about to change Korea forever going forward, which could send Korea into like a king eternal monarch type path in this version of Korea. That's kind of what we're guessing. All the talk that they're talking about is sending Korea more into a England path where the king is more the figurehead and the soul of the country, whereas the prime minister and politicians actually run the country and they're chosen by the people. So that kind of seems like that's what's happening. I would love it if this was like the birth of the king eternal monarch, even though that drama was kind of crazy, but I loved that, the setting of that drama, so we'll have to see. Okay. All right, if you have any good theories, leave them below. Come to our site Drama Milk if you want the written text and video translations. And I love everyone because y'all crashed our site, which was just thrilling by itself. I mean, it got back up running, which was also really great. But anyway, that just adds to the excitement of this show because so many people love it. All right, but we'll catch y'all on the next episode next week.